Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Define Disaster. This is Battlefield 1, and in today's weapon review, we're going to be taking a closer look at the MP18 Trench SMG, exclusive, of course, to the Assault class in Battlefield 1. We're going to be going over the stats and, more importantly, how to best utilize this weapon, what strengths and weaknesses it has, and what you should pay attention to when using it. Starting off then with the stats of the MP18 Trench, with the damage model being a maximum damage of 23 and having a minimum damage of 13.5, with a quick drop off starting already at 50 meters and ending all the way out at 39 meters. What this essentially means is you will be doing a consistent 5-shot kill in close quarter. However, this already ends at 23 meters, where you'll be moving on to a 6, eventually a 7, and all the way out at 37 meters, an actual 8-shot kill. So try to keep your target acquisition close. Moving on then to fire rate at 550 rounds per minute. This may not sound very high, but for Battlefield 1 terms, when it comes to damage output, this is plenty to beat most weapons in close quarter situations. It may not compare very well to the Automatico, however the Automatico has its other weaknesses in itself. Moving on then to the magazine size at 32, that's 31 bullets plus 1. Plenty here to chew through, easily 3 targets in close quarter, especially considering the lower fire rate allowing for a higher degree of precision, which means of course you shouldn't be having to reload this gun when facing too many enemies. Usually you can chew through your opponent and then reload in all safety. Speaking of that reload, it is relatively competitive when it comes to the short reload, that is with 1 or more bullets left in the chamber. At 2.1 seconds, you shouldn't get caught in the reload too often in this game. This is also kind of a characteristic of Battlefield 1. I haven't found myself getting caught in reload situations too often when compared to Battlefield 4. However, if you can, do try to avoid the long reload at 2.96 seconds, because this could get you killed if you're unlucky about enemies rounding the corner when you're mid-reload. Moving on next then to the recoil pattern of the MP18 Trench, with a maximum recoil that is vertical recoil of 0.38 and recoil to the left and right at 0.23. It's relatively unruly, but it is an SMG, and for the engagement distances that you'll be using it, it is easily controllable. For matter of fact, I would even say the recoil is not what is in the way of this weapon performing well. Even at long range, it's more likely the damage model, but from a recoil perspective, easily controllable at the combat distances that you'll be having to use it at. The first shot recoil multiplier at 2.1 is noticeable, nevertheless not in the way of the weapon performing well at its intended purpose. Next up then we have the accuracy of the MP18 Trench, and this is unsurprisingly not too high. It is after all an SMG dedicated to close quarter combat. At 0.3, that is aiming down sight while not moving, its accuracy is fairly good and shouldn't fail you in any combat distance that you'll be using the MP18 Trench to any efficiency. What's really great about this SMG, and SMGs of course in general, is their higher accuracy while hip firing and moving. At 1, precisely 1.001, what this basically means is you can hip fire this weapon reliably all the way out to, I say, 10, maybe even 15 meters without having to aim down sight, saving yourself the time and all the while having a better overview of the battlefield, because you're not sitting behind some iron sights blocking your view of other incoming targets. Having gone over those stats, the first thing that comes to mind in my opinion is a lack of anything impressive. Now that's because frankly the SMGs don't have impressive stats compared to many of the other guns from previous Battlefield games that you will be inevitably comparing it to at the point. However, if you compare it to the Battlefield 1 weapon arsenal, the SMGs perform a role that most weapons can't actually get close to. You have shotguns for close quarters as well, and they are a matter for themselves, but you don't really have assault rifles or LMGs that are that great at close quarter or even come close to the damage output thanks to its higher hipfire accuracy of something like an MP18 Trench. So yes, it may seem unimpressive, but it's the only gun with these stats and is pretty much in a league of its own, or at least the 3 SMGs that we have are in a league of their own when it comes to close quarter performance. So what do I think of the MP18 Trench? Well, it's very much a competent gun, if you use it correctly at least. And here's where we get into the more interesting part of this video. How do you make use of the MP18 Trench? Well, in my opinion, it comes down to the learning of the fact that A, you usually have more bullets than you still think you have in your magazine. Very much as first-person shooter people will know, you usually have a feeling for when your magazine is empty and you reload automatically before hitting that. You don't want to engage in target with only 3 bullets left in your magazine. And I found myself, because of this extremely low fire rate that this gun has had, reloading my gun when I still have 15 or 20 of my 32 rounds left. Now what this means is this can get me killed if there's still a target in my vicinity that I would like to take down, but I don't actually believe I have the necessary ammunition. Or instead of reloading, I may actually just switch to my pistol, which also puts me at a disadvantage in close quarter to somebody using something like the MP18. So step 1 is learning that basically you have more munition than you think because of the low fire rate. Step 2, and this doesn't apply to all of us, is learning to use hipfire more liberally. I know most people in Battlefield 4, because most weapons in Battlefield 4 didn't have great hipfire, learned to basically aim down sight whenever possible, and true, this weapon is still more accurate when aiming down sight. Nevertheless, especially thanks to the introduction of iron sights with Battlefield 1 and the lack of any proper red dot sight as we would be using in Battlefield 4, something like a Coyote or Cobra sight, it is difficult to sometimes keep an overview with the big gun and big iron sights, obstructing the view and making target acquisition, or at least moving target following, a little bit more difficult. This is where hipfire can be a godsend. If you're up to 50 meters from your target, you can get a good shot at them while completely maintaining your overview of the environment you are in. You will see the enemy coming around the corner to your right. If you're hipfiring, you may miss him if you're aiming down sight. And this is one of the big advantages that I think one needs to learn with the SMGs, is to engage in hipfire more liberally. This helps immensely with the performance of the weapon, or one's personal performance with the weapon, and will make having a good time with this weapon a lot easier. At least those are my thoughts on how to use the MP18 Trench and its strengths and weaknesses. It is a solid weapon for an all-rounder SMG that you may want to from time to time also use at medium range. It performs relatively well, in part thanks to its decent accuracy for an SMG, at least for medium range, decent enough, but also because of its higher bullet count and lower fire rate combined with lower recoil, making it just easier to manage and easier to hit those shots. So the MP18 Trench is definitely a gun you can stick with and rely on, in my opinion. Are some of the other SMGs out there a little bit more interesting? Certainly, but that could be said for many of the best weapons in Battlefield 4 as well, something like an M416 or Ace-23. They weren't very interesting, but they were very efficient at what they were good at. Nevertheless, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the MP18 Trench down below in the comments. What are your experiences with this gun? Have you been having an easy or hard time adapting to Battlefield 1's close quarter combat? That is, of course, a little bit changed up from Battlefield 4's or any other previous Battlefield game you've been playing. Feel free to leave that down below in the comments, as well as, of course, your future video suggestions for Battlefield 1 or Battlefield 4. But with that being said, at this point, I'd like to thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next Battlefield 1 video.